Yo, 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 welcome to episode 99 of the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast. My name is Deonte. I'm joined by the Twitter god. I am blessed with his presence.
Oh shit!
Lord Dex Hinton. What's up, my dude? How you doing, bro?
What's up, bro? I'm excited. I'm on your JJ Watt
Yeah,
episode. H Town,
you
hold it
are.
down.
This is perfect. Then you from Houston, 99. Shout out to JJ Watt. Appreciate you again for coming on, man. Wanted to get you in here, obviously, because we connect. I think we connected on Twitter, like a lot of the Baylor kind of people
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. I was like, man, I got to get him on an episode because I hopped on with you and the One Take Pod crew. Shout out to One Take Pod. I think we
Appreciate
reviewed the Spider-Man No Way Home way back. But yeah,
Yeah,
man. How are you and what you been up to the last few days?
man. I'm good, man. It's been weird. I lost a job unexpectedly a couple weeks ago, and then I got one, a new one earlier this week. So I went from unemployed to fun employed in like a
Yeah.
couple of days. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm like, I can do whatever I want. I'm chilling.
Bounce
that
back game.
bounce back gang. I'm making
Bounce
more
back
money
game.
than I was before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so I went from all that stress of like, I got to figure out what I'm gonna do to now I'm like, I ain't got nothing to do. I'm chilling.
Right. Already, man. Appreciate it. And wanted to bring you in here because I followed you for a while. Not to sound creeperish, but everybody Baylor Twitter knows each other in some capacity, seeing each other, and wanted
Bro,
to
I
bring you
was
in to
thinking
talk.
about it the other day. I was in Waco last weekend. I was like, I graduated 6 years ago, man.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
I've known y'all for so long.
Yeah. See, it's 6 for you and 10 for me. So now I feel I feel the age coming on. But yeah, we mentioned we both graduated from Baylor. We'll get into like all the stuff you're into, but as far as being at Baylor, was there a moment for you where you were like, man, and I want to like do dope things. I want to write. I want to be a podcaster, anything like that. Was there like a spark, a light bulb that went off in your head? It was like, man, I want to do this.
Yeah, so I never really thought of it as like something I could do as a job, really. But I started out. I had a friend, my friend Jordan Sakakini. I don't remember what his Twitter ad is. It's very complicated. I think it's like Der Baylor Bear or something like that. But he used to write for our Daily Bears. He was doing the Daily Bear report every single day. We were friends. He was a senior. I was a freshman, and I was like, "That's really cool. I want to do that. Can I write for our Daily Bears too?" And he was like, "Yeah, come on." So the first thing I ever wrote for our Daily Bears was my freshman year. There was a basketball game. It was like when I think college basketball was doing that like marathon day of like
Yeah,
they
I
had
remember
games starting
that.
at like 11 a.m. or
I
whatever.
remember that.
And Baylor had a game at like 2 p.m. and I had a class that day. Like, so my first ever like Baylor home game, they were playing South Carolina. I wrote an email to my professor. I was like, there's a Baylor basketball game coming up. It's at the same time as your class. I want to go to this game. I'm gonna write an article and I'm gonna talk about like my experience at this Baylor basketball game. If you like give me an excused absence for class, like I'm gonna
Was
write
this like
about
an English class?
this was for all my Baylor people, this was Examine Life, a big class, the Baylor Interdisciplinary Corps. If you know anything about that in the honors college, but yeah, it was all about like the freshman experience and all that, like kind of getting to know campus and that kind of stuff. So I was like, this is like the first Baylor basketball game my freshman year, big part of the Baylor experience. I'm gonna write you a paper about like what it's like going to this game or whatever. And that was the first thing I ever wrote for ODB. So like since then, I've been like that kind of kicked off my like journey in the content game of like going to sports stuff, going to movie stuff, and just writing about my experience with it. So it all started freshman year at Baylor.
Yeah. You segued into my next question. You wrote for our Daily Bears for a while. You even got me on. I don't know if you remember this. I messaged you, I think a few years ago. I was like, man, how do I get in with our Daily Bears? Because like I always felt like I wanted to do something kind of in that arena. And I remember messaging you, and he's like, yeah, bro, just message. I think you met me, or you made me message Matt or something like that. Which now I'm really cool with Matt helping out with Between Two Bears and stuff. So One particular question I'm gonna ask you about our Daily Bears. I did some research. I went in the archives. I I think you deleted the tweet. And I remember you saying it, but about the Scott Drew letter. The
Man,
people, okay,
oh
the
man.
people that don't know about the Scott Drew letter, because honestly, before you even go into it, I think a lot of people, I'll say it quietly, a lot of people were probably thinking the same thing before we won the title that year. But what happened with the Scott Drew letter?
Oh man, that I didn't know we was gonna talk about that,
Yeah,
man.
I was like, man, should I let him know? I was like, no, I'm gonna put him on the spot.
Look, okay, so I don't even remember what year that was at this point. It might have been like 2018, 2019, something like that. But it was before Baylor was what it is now. And we were always just kind of hanging around in the Big 12, never won the big one. That kind of it had been a few years.
It was the Scott Drew can't coach era.
It was the Scott Drew can't coach era. Like after like the Elite Eight appearances were like way in the rearview mirror, that kind of thing. And I think Baylor went on like a 3-game win streak or something like that. And I was like, that's cool and everything. But we all know when it gets to the tournament, something's going to go wrong like it does every time. Yeah. Like Kansas is going to win the conference. They have won the conference like 10 years in a row or something. Right. And then we going to lose in the conference tournament. And then we going to get to like the Sweet 16 or something and we going to lose. We had lost to like Yale that one year. We had lost to like Georgia State or Georgia Southern, whichever one in the tournament. Yeah, that like buzzer beater or whatever early in the tournament, stuff like that. And I was like, we all know how this is gonna go. You know what I'm saying? We won 3 games in a row. That's cool. We know we're not gonna win the conference. We know we're not going to the Final Four, like that kind of thing. And like everybody agreed with me at that point. Everyone was like,
of course they did.
At that point, everybody was like, you're right. We're not going to win the conference. We're not going to go to the Final Four. But that doesn't matter because Scott Drew like saved us from the brink of
right,
extinction, basically. Like I got to Baylor in 2013. So like the 2003 stuff when Scott Drew showed up, not really a part of like my like thought growing up, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't paying attention. I didn't care. I was in 3rd grade in 2003. So like the Baylor from before, like the Dave Bliss stuff, none of that really mattered to me. I'm like, we're here now. We should be winning, like trying to win the conference, trying to move up. So I wrote this whole long Scott Drew article being like, he's not going to win the conference. He's not going to the Final Four. So what are we doing? Like, we've hit the ceiling on Scott Drew. Let's move on. And I was like, if Scott Drew wins the conference or makes the Final Four, I will write a like handwritten apology letter to everyone who requests one because like we all know that's not going to happen, right? And I think it was 2019 because then 2020 happened,
right?
And like the season got shortened or whatever. We didn't like play the full season and all that, but then 2021, we all know what happens. We win the championship and stuff. People are like, "Oh, like you thought we weren't gonna do this."
How
blah,
many?
Blah, blah.
Yeah, how many people hopped in your mentions after we won it all?
so many. And I'm like, how was I supposed to know that Scott Drew was gonna find the secret in the transfer portal? You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, Scott Drew, he looked around and he was like, you know what? Like Kansas, they got the best 18, 19-year-olds in the country, right? Coming out of high school.
Yeah.
I can get the best 20, 21-year-olds in the transfer portal. And then y'all can't do nothing with that because these are like grown men who've been in college for a while. You know what I'm saying?
He found the recipe for sure.
And that like, it was basically like when people found out about Bitcoin before everybody else did.
Yeah.
So they were like making all the money. Like that's Scott Drew with the transfer portal. Like he found out about that for anybody. But so like that just took him to another level. And that 21 team was ridiculous. Like I was talking to my boy Royden from the One Take Pod the other day about this when I was up in Waco. It was like we had 3 guards who could all dribble and make their own shot. That was like a cheat code.
It was like, nasty, bro. Like, it was nasty.
Having 3 guards in college basketball who can all dribble and make their own shot is a cheat code. Like everyone's like, what is this wizardry? You know what I'm saying? NBA, that ain't nothing. But college, that's like light years ahead thinking. Like, how was I supposed to know Scott Drew was about to turn into another person and win a national championship?
And Insane. That was just a funny time, man. I remember that, and I was like, "Dang, this dude's going through it." Like, I know his mentions are on fire right now.
Yep.
But yeah, you mentioned Royden, the One Take Pod. Royden has been a guest on here to talk about. I think I had him on the episode to talk about the Doctor Strange 2. Uh and you guys have been doing your thing over there at One Take Pod for a while, man. How did you guys get started with that, and how did you guys get to be a part, I guess, the relationship with Apollo Media?
Yeah. So I didn't know Royden at all at Baylor, but I knew his girlfriend, now wife, at Baylor, and she was like, "Oh, you're really into like movies and sports and stuff." So is my boyfriend. He's also on Twitter. Like y'all are both like Baylor Twitter people. Y'all should follow each other. And we were like, okay, whatever. And then eventually we were like, we followed each other and we were like, hey, let's do a movie podcast. Like
Yeah,
I had never met the guy in person before. We started doing the podcast. But yeah, we started like January 2020. And
right before
then
the vid.
right before the vid, and then movies stopped coming out in March of 2020. So we were like, well, this was a terrible time to start a movie podcast. But yeah, now that's my guy. We're still doing it. It's been 3 years. Probably just passed up 3 year anniversary. We didn't like talk about that, but yeah, that's still my guy. I hung out with him and his wife last week up in Waco. Like, still my guy. But yeah, the Apollo stuff happened. I was writing for a Rockets website, uh, and then that Rockets website ended up merging with Apollo. Apollo used to be just like Houston Astros baseball stuff. And they're like, we want to expand, we want to get bigger, we want to go like do the Rockets, do the Texans, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so they like ended up merging with this Rockets website that I was writing for. I never knew any of those guys before that. But yeah, we've like that merger happened, and I told them I was like, I'm doing this movie podcast like on the side of the Rocket stuff. Do y'all want to like, bring that on too? And they did, and it's just kind of grown from there. So yeah, it's been awesome, man. I love movies. That's like one of my favorite things to do is go to the movie
Yeah.
theater. I always tell people I'm not a movie buff because like when you say you're a movie buff, people are like, oh, so like you want to talk about like Gone with the Wind and
Yeah.
all these other like
Stuff
19,
like movies they make you watch in college and,
yeah, these like old
break
ancient
down.
movies.
Yeah.
I haven't seen most of that stuff. I've never seen Gone with the Wind. I've never seen Citizen Kane, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like new stuff, going to the movie theaters, I love that. That was like one of my favorite things to do, especially when I moved back home after college. Like I
Yeah.
didn't have a whole lot of friends who lived like in Houston, and like the ones who lived in Houston didn't live on my side of Houston.
Right.
So, I was like just going to the movies all the time by myself is like my thing to do, getting out of the house or whatever. So I love like new movies, going to the movies, but yeah, that's kind of turned into a whole other career basically with
Right.
Apollo now.
Yeah. It's super cool, especially seeing the brand Apollo grow. How is it to like be a part of something like that that's actually a part of where you're from?
Yeah, man, it's so cool. I'm one of those people who loves like community and being like a part of something, bigger than yourself and all that kind of corny Bailery stuff, right? Uh and so Apollo, like I said, it started out mostly as like a Houston Astros kind of thing. And the Astros community is crazy. I was not like a huge baseball fan or anything like that. I watched in 2017. I saw us win the World Series and all that stuff. But it wasn't until I got with Apollo that I was like every day, kind of in the weeds on like the baseball stuff.
Yeah.
And like just that community is so passionate, so crazy. Like they love the Astros, they love Houston. Houston's a very like bandwagon sports kind of town. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
whatever team is hot, we all on
We
that.
rolling. Yeah.
Like if like the Texans got hot for a little bit, everybody's a huge Texans fan. When Harden and them were doing their thing on the Rockets, everybody was a huge Rockets fan. But the Astros, they're like the only game in town right now that's like good. So everybody's all in on the Astros stuff. And like it's been really cool for me to kind of learn more about baseball and like
Yeah.
actually kind of get in the weeds with people and just kind of see all these people who are like super passionate that I wouldn't know anything about otherwise. Like they're all really cool, really into Houston, really into celebrating like whatever the Astros are doing, Rockets, Texans, like all the rap music that's coming out of Houston.
Yeah.
Like everything. You know, it's really dope to see. So I've loved my time with Apollo.
That's dope. That's dope, man. Switching gears a little bit. You didn't know you were gonna come over here, and I was gonna like glorify your resume, but I'm gonna do that again. You wrote for a little bit with Screen Rant,
Yeah.
and I looking from the outside in, one of the dopest moments was when Mark Ruffalo requoted or
Oh
quoted your article,
man.
bro. First thing that went through your head, like, did you just see it on Twitter? Did somebody hit you up and say, "Hey, bro, Mark Ruffalo just retweeted your shit"? Like,
No.
how did that happen?
So Screen Rant, like it's so many, it's way more people than you realize, right? For Screen Rant, right? And they use like a Discord server to kind of
Okay,
keep track of everything. So somebody on the Discord server was like, you know, shout out to Dex, like Mark Ruffalo, like tweet, like quoted your article. You never know who's reading, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so always like put your best foot forward, like as kind of like a motivational thing to
yeah,
everybody. They were like, you know, you never know who's reading. Some of these celebrities actually read our articles, like these people that you like idolize or whatever. So like that's really important. And so I was like, excuse me? Like
just
Mark
casually drop that in there.
the Hulk? Like he retweeted my article about She-Hulk? Like what? You know? So I was freaking out, man. Like that was one of the cooler things that's ever happened for me. Like I've gotten to do a lot of like really cool stuff and all that, but like seeing Mark Ruffalo, one of these guys who I'm like, I pay, you know, my $10 every time one of your movies comes out so I can go watch it and
Yeah,
like talk about it or whatever. You read my article, like
right.
enough to like pull a quote from it. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and it was an important article. Like, it was about She-Hulk, and you know how you have that crowd where you know, those people that She-Hulk, I don't want to have a female character lead. We're
it's
gonna review
woke.
bomb it. Yeah, woke, too woke. MCU's too, you know, too much, doing all this extra stuff. So I felt like having him kind of quote what you said, but also establish like more so why people are acting so weird about MCU stuff was pretty damn legit.
Yeah, man, that was like the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. Like as a result of doing this like content game, I was like,
Yeah,
oh, like I'm here for real
yeah,
now. Like you know what I'm saying? That was the moment where I was like, okay, I really do this. Like you know the
yeah,
Apollo stuff, it's amazing. I love it, but it's mostly like you know I'm talking to like just like for lack of a better term, like just regular people all the
right.
time, like who just love the Astros or whatever. But Mark Ruffalo, like talking about my article about
Right.
She-Hulk, I'm I I made it. Like
That's it.
this is it. Yeah.
That's it. That's dope. One other thing that caught my eye. I want to say this tweet was from a while ago. Yeah, actually, it was from last year. You talked about the term creator. And
Yeah.
for the listeners, this is what Dex tweeted, and I couldn't agree with him more. He said, "I've talked about this before, but I hate the term creator. It's unpleasant on the ear. It's vague, imprecise, to the point of being functionally useless. And most people who are labeled as or label themselves creators aren't actually creating anything. Why do you believe that?"
Yeah, man. Like, okay, so people like if I told people what I do for Apollo or whatever, they'd say, "Oh, so you're like a content creator, like creator or whatever." First of all, like I said, that just sounds gross to me. Like creator, like that word just like this just doesn't like
I'm
sound.
in the lab doing like putting potions and something together.
Yeah, like it just doesn't like it's just not a pleasant word. You know what I'm saying? But also I do a lot of like movie stuff, sports stuff, right? So I'm writing I'm writing stuff about I'm writing movie reviews. I'm writing, you know, analysis about She-Hulk or whatever,
Yeah,
right? I didn't create anything when I like was talking about She-Hulk and IMDb, right? Like the director of She-Hulk, right? They created something. The people who invented IMDb, they created something. Me, I just like took bits and pieces and thoughts about those things and put them together in like an article or whatever for other people to read, right? I didn't like it's not like I formed something new, right?
yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a mom creates a baby, right? Like that's like you did that. Me, I'm sitting here, I'm just like analyzing stuff that other people have created, right? So like if you are a video game like Twitch streamer or whatever, you're not creating anything. You're playing a game that other people created.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're like a movie, like video essay YouTuber or whatever, it's a lot of work, obviously, to make like a video essay on YouTube. It's like an hour long with in depth commentary or whatever. But the people who made the movie, they created
Yeah.
stuff. You are just like, kind of grabbing onto that and using that to kind of, you know, jump off of and like do some analysis and stuff like that. So to me, like when people say creator, I'm like that should be reserved for like the people who actually create the stuff that we're talking
Right.
about. Like, me as someone who just reviews movies, like I guess you could say I'm creating a review, but like that's not the same thing. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, that just is not accurate.
And
Like
it's
that just
like a
doesn't.
catchy term now. Like I feel like that's just like they think it's a sexy term to use. Like content creator is easy. I can basically create. I'm doing something with it's like a word that is easy to be used in a sense like where anybody can do it in my opinion. But
Yeah, and that's why
yeah,
I said it's imprecise because it's
yeah,
like that can mean basically anything. Like when you produce podcasts and stuff like that, like that's like I guess you're creating a podcast, but it's like that doesn't really align with like what Twitch streamers are doing. What
right,
Twitch streamers are doing doesn't really align with what YouTubers are doing. Like it's all over the place. Like you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So I just don't that word doesn't really fit to me.
yeah,
Like if I tell people what I do for Apollo, I'm like I'm a film critic. Like that's what I do.
right, or an
I
editor or
critique
something like
films.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. Or if you're if you're a sports podcaster, you're a sports podcaster.
yeah,
Like you create podcasts about sports.
right.
That's what you do. Like saying I'm a creator, it's like that can mean anything.
I feel you, bro. We talked about like all the different endeavors you've gone through, stuff that you're currently doing on multiple platforms and things like that. Question I have for you: how do you not get overwhelmed? I guess, or if you do, how do you kind of weather that storm? Because I know a lot of the times, like when I am helping out with different podcasts or stuff for my actual job, it's like hard to kind of like get focused on what I want to do if I want to have all these different things out at a certain time, or like I know I got to write this article, I know I got to produce this podcast and have it out in the morning. How do you keep yourself level to where you're like, man, I got to do this, but I got to do that too, like with everything on your plate?
Yeah, so for me, like you mentioned your actual job or whatever. So that's kind of how I prioritize things. I'm like,
Yeah,
I can like my actual job is one thing. Like my day job, I'm a digital marketer. Like I work in content now. Like I said, I got a new job. I'll be working for Academy Sports and Outdoors. So like that's like a
shout out Academy.
shout out to Academy. That's like number one. That pays the bills like, the most or whatever. And then from there it's kind of like, okay, I want to do a movie review about this like really obscure indie movie that I saw that I really loved or whatever. But nobody's gonna click on that. Like that's not going to get me paid.
Yeah,
So I have to write a review about Avatar. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Because like that's what everyone's talking about right now. Like I have to prioritize like the Marvel movie that just came out. Like you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I have to structure my time because it's like part of this I'm doing it just for fun, but also part of it is like this is how I make money. So I have to prioritize what is going to make me more money, at the end of the day. So I can't write reviews for every single movie that I watch because it's like, well, 7 people are gonna read this review about women talking,
yeah,
but 700 people are gonna read this review about Ant-Man and the Wasp. So
yeah,
that's what I'm gonna prioritize.
right,
And like that's not a perfect system or whatever. Like I'm definitely not saying that everyone should make everything they do about like what's gonna make them the most money or whatever. But for me, because like I have so many different things that I'm trying to do. I like have to have some kind of like guiding star or whatever.
Yeah.
And like
Like that compass.
the
Yeah.
money is the guiding star at the end of the day. Like
Right.
this is like, what'll like actually be valuable content people care about that will like get clicks, make money. And then from there, like if I have time, then I'll do like the extra stuff that's like, just
Yeah.
indie films or whatever that no one else really cares about, but like I just really want to write about. Then I'll do that after I spend time doing my day job
Yeah.
and like, the big
The main
important
thing.
content.
Yeah. Keep the main thing the main thing. Uh Mention MCU, mention Ant-Man before I let you go. A lot of mixed reviews on the Ant-Man 3, bro. A lot of Ant-Man slander, so to speak. I
Yeah.
did not get a chance to I'm gonna listen to y'all episode on my flight tomorrow. Uh but I saw clips online from you and the Royden and Tej talking about the new Ant-Man. Tej changed his name to Kang Lai. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh I'll tell you what I think, and then I'll flip it to you.
So you
I,
have seen it.
I have seen the movie.
Okay.
I've seen the
Okay.
movie. And I haven't had a chance to talk to it on a platform, so this is my first time doing that. I enjoyed Jonathan Major's performance. I feel like I've seen him in what was that movie before Lovecraft Country before I got canceled.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
was
the
Lovecraft
show.
Country. Yeah. But even with the Loki series, when he had his first presence as He Who Remains, thought that was dope. I think he brought kind of what to expect from the multiple Kangs in the universe or whatever in the future, things like that. I think he did well. I had to bring myself down to kind of come into like MCU terms of how they do things. I just didn't agree with some of the choices they made.
Mm.
One with Cassie just being able to be an OD superhero. I don't know if y'all talked about this already on One Take Pod, but I feel like she was already like, like I want to see her struggle. I want to see her like get whooped and like I don't want to do this. I guess we might see it later down the road, but I'm like, I want to see her go through that. I don't think I could be a superhero. You know what I'm talking about? I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
she was like breaking away from Kang's men. And just little nitpicks like that were kind of ticking me off. But I don't know how I feel about Kang, so to speak, getting defeated by like mechanical ants to end the movie. And usually I say spoiler alert. If you're listening by now, it's your fault. You already know. But yeah, just little nitpicks like that. But I know like most of the movie was setting up like Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and everything in the future. So I kind of brought myself back to that nature. But what did you think of the film, bro? And what do you think it kind of means for the MCU moving forward?
Yeah, so we kind of got into this on the One Take Pod. Listen to us.
Yeah. Check them out. I'm gonna
One
have it
Take
in the
Podcast
description.
wherever you get your podcast. But yeah, so we got into it's kind of hard when everyone is like, "Oh, this movie sucks. Like this is the worst thing ever." Like blah blah blah. And you're just kind of like, "Well, I liked it."
Yeah.
Like, sorry, like I just liked it.
And it's also funny because like people like Twitter is so funny, man. Like just hyping up one Black History Month, like Kang whooping Paul Rudd, through all the trailers and shows, like, how Kang, everybody's like, oh, this is it for Ant-Man. Ant-Man gone. Cassie gone. Like, everybody they expecting to die and then see the film. I think that was just funny to see how that came out.
Yeah, people definitely thought Ant-Man was gonna die. Like Tej thought like going in, he was like, Ant-Man is cooked, Ant-Man is going to die, whatever. I was like, bro, they're not gonna kill Ant-Man in the Ant-Man movie. Like that's not a thing that's gonna happen or whatever. But for me, like I get a lot of the criticism that Ant-Man has gotten, right? Like I understand why people are like, well, like this isn't like a great standalone movie or whatever. Like this is all set up for the MCU. And like, it takes a lot from Star Wars, from Lord of the Rings, from like other movies that we've seen before. And I get why people don't like that, but me, I'm just like, I enjoyed that about it. Like I thought the Star Wars stuff was cool. Like I love like the like Kang is basically Darth Vader, like,
Yeah.
in that movie. And I thought that was dope. Like, I really love Jonathan Majors in it, but I feel like everyone loves Jonathan Majors' performance. A lot of what I liked about it is kind of the, you know, uh, Ant-Man and like Scott Lang and Cassie, they're kind of building a rebellion, basically, like Star Wars. They're kind of like trying to
They took
motivate the
right.
people to like rise up against this empire that feels unbeatable, right? And I really enjoy that. Like that's one of the things that I look for in superhero movies is when superheroes feel like actual heroes. Like a lot of superhero movies that we get, like they get the super part right. It's like, you watch Man of Steel or Justice League or whatever, and like these people are basically gods. Like that's cool. But they don't really get like the hero part right. And I felt like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it really dialed in on that like hero part of superhero. Like we're motivating these people to rise up against this empire. We're saving them, we're protecting them, like we're motivating them, that kind of thing. And that's just dope to me.
Yeah.
Like I love that every time. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a very corny person when it comes to movies. I just love seeing like corny stuff like that. And Ant-Man is in like the probability matrix or whatever, and he's like,
That scene was dope.
that scene was dope. It's like, the thing that gets him through it is that he has love for his daughter. To me, that's dope. Like I'm a sucker for that. I'm gonna be there every time. Like he loves his daughter, so he gets through the trial. Sick. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I get why people don't like it, but I loved it. And the whole setup for like the MCU and all that. I know, like Teach made this point over and over again, like that. If you're trying to set up a big bad, you shouldn't have him lose a fight to Ant-Man. Like I get it, but to me, there's like so many other Kangs, right? And like the circumstances of Kang losing that fight are so one-off and random. Like the Wasp basically pops through the portal and like hits him a couple of times and like accidentally knocks him into like a time warp, basically. Right. Like that's not gonna happen again. You know what I'm saying? Like that's such a random one-off circumstance that having like every Kang from every part of the multiverse come and fight you.
Right.
If your plan is I'm gonna accidentally knock all of them into a time warp, like you're screwed. Like that's not a plan. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I feel like they did a good enough job of setting up Kang as like a scary big bad type of force where it's like, oh, if you're fighting all of them, then you're probably screwed. Like
right.
if it took this like accident basically to beat one of them who wasn't even like really trying to kill y'all like that, fighting 8,000 of them who are like desperately trying to get rid of y'all is going to be a problem. So I'm excited.
Yeah, the future, I like how they set up the Kangs, and even with the, I guess I don't even know how to call it, but early Kang that they teased in the post credit scene looks to be something cool. But that is Dex Hinton. Appreciate you, my guy, for coming on, bro. Please, like, shout out all of your everything that you do. Put it on this on the tag here as we get out of here, bro.
Yeah, man. So you can follow me on Twitter at Lord Dex Hinton. Make sure you follow Apollo on everything at Apollo.
Especially the Houston fans.
Especially my Houston people. But even if you're not like a Houston person and you don't care about sports that much, all of our TikTok stuff is just movie stuff. So follow us at Apollo HOU on TikTok for all of our like movie content. That's where we post most of that stuff. So yeah, man. Lord Dex Hinton, Apollo HOU, and then the One Take Pod at the number one Take Pod. Wherever you get your podcast on all your social platforms, that's where I'm at.
And that is Dex Hinton. I'm Deonte Epps, episode 99 of the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast. We out. The do-wop. The do-wop. The do-wop.